Story of three families fighting exclusion. An American Family continues right after these messages.
Special education has been and is a failure. And people have to look back at decisions that were made in the 60s and the 70s about segregating these children from society.
Catch the action with The Winning Edge. The Winning Edge brings you a half hour of non-stop action and interviews dealing with tough teen issues. Meet famous entertainers and professional athletes as young Christians reveal the key to their competitive edge. Catch the action with The Winning Edge. Saturday on NET at 2:30 Eastern.
Music presents the Statler Brothers.
And he walks with
Now you can enjoy the Statler Brothers in a special gospel collection.
Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. Let us tell him all about our trouble. He will hear our faintest cry, and he will
All your best loved favorites.
love lifted me.
But this Statler Gospel Treasury is not in stores. Please order now.
Amazing grace.
Call 1-800-874-1488. To save all COD charges, use your credit card or send check or money order for $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for CD, plus $3 shipping to Statler Brothers, P.O. Box 2727, Department 35, Costa Mesa, California.
Ever wonder what your state lawmakers say to Washington? NET presents State Lines, opening up a new channel of dialogue from your state capital to the nation's capital. State Lines, taking calls from top legislators coast to coast. State Lines, live interactive television. When it comes to innovative programming, come to NET. Catch State Lines this Wednesday at 3 Eastern.
The point is that if you have a child with a disability and you raise that child in society and educate that child in society, what you're doing is you're preparing that child to assume a productive role in our own society where he can live on his own and be productive in a job and go to work in the morning and come home at night. He may need a house mom to take care of him and the 3 or 4 others that may live in that place. But that child is not relying upon the public dole for his care and upkeep.
Federal law promises all children the right to a public education. But do handicapped children have the same right? On one side of the debate, many educators claim that children are a disruption to the classroom routine and don't really learn any more than they could in a special ed program. On the other side, many parents and researchers believe that being surrounded by children their own age allows those with handicaps to model what is considered normal behavior. Joseph Hartmann saw great improvement in his autistic son's behavior when he was included in a regular classroom in Chicago. When the Hartmann family moved to Virginia, the child was kept in a regular class. But the school system is now suing the Hartmann family in an effort to remove the son from the classroom and have him placed in a segregated special education program. Mr. Hartmann told his story to NET reporter Laura Atwell.
Mark is a child about 9 years old who is currently in 3rd grade in Blacksburg, Virginia. He suffers from what the doctors refer to as a severe speech development delay with autistic characteristics. For all practical purposes and for labeling considerations, you would have to consider him as being severely autistic. He's a nonverbal child, which puts him into that category of severe disability.
Mark was doing fine in his school in Chicago with an inclusion program where severely handicapped children are integrated into the regular classroom. By training teachers to work with these kids alongside other children without learning disabilities, research has shown that kids like Mark do better than if he were put in a special ed program. But that all changed for Mark when his family moved to the Washington, D.C. area.
When we arrived here and began school, we immediately were facing problems which we didn't face back in Chicago. And these problems really impacted most on Mark. It put him into a very frustrating situation day in and day out, dealing with supposed professionals who may be able to teach and to handle regular kids extremely well, but they were unable, because they hadn't been trained, they were unable to cope with the kind of regimen and requirements that are needed to include a special ed child in that regular classroom.
And that's when their problems began. But why was it so important to the Hartmanns to place Mark in a regular classroom?
The importance of placing a disabled child, and especially an autistic child, in a regular classroom gets right to the heart of what that child needs most. And that child needs to overcome his shyness, his being withdrawn into himself, getting out, being social, being able to tolerate other people around him, and be able to at least function in a society that eventually will be the society that he lives in as an adult. And the point that we make here is that unless you include these children early, and there's a whole, you can talk to an educator and they'll tell you about early intervention. Unless you include that child early in life with other children and have that child grow and experience the kind of living experiences that he needs, what's going to happen is, if you don't do that, you're going to have a child that continues to be isolated throughout his whole life, and will end up, he'll graduate from the special ed program and go right into an institution. And we think that that is a terrible indictment by society on someone who is afflicted with a very, very terrible condition, and that condition is autism.
According to Joe Hartmann, the school in Loudoun County was not able to accommodate his son's needs.
Concerning Loudoun County and our experience in Loudoun County, basically what we ran into was a philosophical difference with us. We wanted inclusion, and the system wasn't ready to fully include an autistic child.
And what were the reasons they gave you?
That it would destroy, the reasons they gave us for not backing fully and committing itself to an inclusion program was that it would basically destroy their special education programs, and that we would have parents from all over coming into Loudoun County to have their kids included.
And what do you think their reasons were?
I think those are exactly what
Those are the reasons. Because kids would be coming in and it would sort of disrupt the regular children, so they want to keep the kids separate.
Exactly.
So how did you and your wife respond to this? What did you do?
We were very naive in our response to the frustrations that we were encountering and seeing Mark basically being very frustrated. We tried our best to bring to Loudoun County and the principal and the teacher and the special ed therapist and all of those who were involved in the administration. We tried to bring them materials that they could read and study to find out just exactly what we were talking about. We asked them to bring in some people who knew inclusion and to do assessments and evaluations and to point them in the right direction as to what they needed to do to make this program successful. Mm-hmm. And basically we were frustrated throughout the year in everything that we tried. And at the end of the year, the county sued us.
They sued you?
To take Mark out of the regular classroom and put him into special education classroom.
They sued you? The county sued you guys? Explain
Yes.
that to me if you would a little bit. I find that...
They filed a due process against us to
Right.
remove Mark from regular education and put them into a segregated special education program with 4 other autistic children.
The Hartmanns believe that inclusion programs should be mandatory in all schools. They're appealing the court's ruling that denies Mark a place in the classroom in Loudoun County and denies them the right to insist on it.
We'll be right back to talk with Tom Sullivan, the author of Special Parent, Special Child, about his experience with his handicap and his opinion on including the handicapped in regular classrooms. So stay with us.